All right, all right, all right, all right. Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداه مهتدى. First and foremost, let me just check that the sound is coming through fine. Un momentico, people. Let's check this as well. All right. So, one moment. Just bring this through. Just do a quick sound check. Right, where we at? All right. So, people, what is going on? Right, is the sound coming through absolutely fine, people? Can you hear me? Let me just bring up your comments. YouTube, Facebook. All right, where you guys at? Sound is good. All right, is the sound right? In which case, إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله على القوم. أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا. Wanying, Layth, bienvenidos a todos. Bakhair Ragle, Khushamaded, Kemcho, Sasriakal, and people, Swagatam. So, I'm just taking a look at some of the comments. All right, you guys are doing it. Ayub Al Maliki, the sound is perfect. And nothing beneath perfect would do. So, lillahi alhamd. All right. What? Right, let's see. Salams. Asad, you're doing it. Zeba, assalamu alaikum. Hussein, all right. People, those of you just tuning in, you know the drill. You click like, you click share, you spread the love. On today's lesson, what we'll be taking a look at, inshallah. Yeah, what this one, man? We'll be taking a look at the a bit of this in a moment. Un momentico, people. Let me just remove that for now. All right, so we'll be taking a look at that in a moment. It'll be how the Quran, what I want to explore today is the importance of the voice of reason, something I've spoken about on many occasions, but let's take a look at that again today. How the Quran invokes the voice of reason and why that's so important and how that can help us in our daily lives. So we'll take a look at this. We'll take a look at some of the verses to do with this and just explore them. And then we'll, inshallah, move on to seeing and sharing some of your thoughts. You amazing people. Right, mi gente. Look at that. See, let me just get caffeinated first of all. And then, of course, I will, following that, share the link as well for a live meet and greet as well, man, as well. So all of this, people. Right. I'm just, before beginning, Asad, look at Asad Ejaz is into Urdu poetry already. See, this one. He's been wounded, people. That's a wound straight in the heart. Did I watch Amar Naqshwani's lectures this year? I haven't. No, I haven't been watching. All right, Morial, you're doing it. Look at this, Muhammad Hassan. I'm constantly shocked by the erudite, rather, intelligence of the folks who join here. They are smarter than me. Look at that. See, that's when you have that complex that, yeah, is there anybody smarter than me on this? You're doing it. Hana wa alaikum assalam, ahlan wa sahlan. Right, so I've just given you guys some of those moments to click like, share, spread the love, and then we will begin. Let me bring up my, yeah, there's the banner. Look at that. Peoples, make sure you have subscribed. And then we can go to some other, Frabri, not forgetting Frabri, King Frabri. You're doing it. Right, all right, clear. Ahlan wa sahlan. Hanji, Mufti Sahab, कैसे हो यार? क्या बात है, in the words of the legend मीर तकी मीर के हाल बद ना गुफ्तनी है मेरा, आपने पूछा तो मेहरबानी की. that my condition is not one that can be expressed. That's what Mir Taki Mir says. But the fact that you asked, meherbani ki aapne, meherbani. All right, so, oh, Walker, you're doing it, yaar. Much love straight away with the super chat. I haven't even begun the dars yet, but straight away, Waker. You're awesome one. Honest advice. Can you let the guest talk more than you when you do Mind Trap? May Allah send more Mufti like you, reasoning. वाह यार, शर्मिंदा कर देते हैं आप. Yeah, you see, I'll keep that in mind. And it's usually just a very, or from my side, I try to have a very natural conversation. And sometimes, just as you would in real life, you know, there's partially your input, partially the other person's, and that's what it is, really. It's not, to be honest, it's not Mind Traps are not an interview. They are a dialogue. So it's about exploring what the person has to say, and you know, sometimes interjecting with questions and having that kind of dynamism. Yeah, that's what it's about. So, right. Andrew Barocco, Mufti Saab, love from us, Gura brothers in the UK. Right back at you, man. Right back at you. Right. So, you're doing it, Fahad. You're doing it. Much love. Right. Okay. So, speaking of mind traps, I'll probably say a few words again later on. I should be having a mind trap this week with, this week we should once again, inshallah, on Friday, have a mind trap with Dr. Sayyid. I have actually, it's a repeated guest from quite early on, and I'll bring up some of the details a little later on when we go through that. Okay, so let's begin, people. Allahu Akbar. Look at this, people. Look at this. So, what do I want to? You see, there it is. So, now, right now, that's not it. That's it. I'm scrolling through using the volume scroll. No wonder it's not moving. Right. So, let's take a look at that, people. There it is. Now, looking at the Quran and the voice of reason. And I think this can't be stressed enough. It's incredibly important. Let's bring up some ayat, and then I'll go into why I think it's important, and let's explore some of these ayat. Yeah, my bad, man. See, this technology and me, we have an interesting oh, that's hilarious. What's going on here? You know what it is? Because the whole thing is white, the cursor, it's kind of blended into the white background, so you can't see what you're pressing. Fun and games. Right. So nevertheless, I'm going to bring up some of the verses, and we can just, if I just move through it like that, it'll be much easier, I think. Yeah. You can do it. You can do it. There it is. Right. I want to take a look at some of these verses. Let's start off with this verse from Surah Al-Hajj. We've got it's clearly not pausing for me when I wanted to pause. And there's me thinking this would be a much better idea to make it dynamic like that, as opposed to just using the PowerPoint. This goes to show people, do not be fooled by technology. Surah Al-Hajj and Surah Al-Baqarah. Right. And if it changes, and also these two verses, so I'll switch it off and then we'll come back to it. I'll just talk about them. And so from Surah An-Nisa and Surah Al-Ma'idah. Okay, فَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Let's take this off, and I'll bring it back as what I'll do is as a PowerPoint in a moment. Right. This cannot be overstated, that this deen of ours rests itself in the voice of reason. It is incredibly important to understand that. Some people feel that Islam or religion as a whole, they feel that religions are incompatible with reason. And that you couldn't be farther from the truth when it comes to Islam. And I know the Western religions, Islam is also a Western religion in the categorization of religions. So Western religions do root themselves on reason, generally speaking. But Islam, from all of them, the Abrahamic faiths, is the one that champions the voice of reason. We are in a day and age where religion as a whole has been incredibly challenged, and is challenging, because if we're going to be honest, people, we live in an era of post-religion, in a post-religion era, that really the world has kind of moved on, or a considerable part of the globe has moved on from organized and institutionalized religions, that they don't really require religion to provide them the comfort or the rules or the ethics that faith would provide them previously. This is as is seen in mainland Europe, the UK, in Europe particularly, in other countries too. You will see America, part of South America. It doesn't mean that everybody there abandons religion, but they are in a post-religion era. So religion is still there, but it doesn't play the role that religion once played. So people may use it still to lean in for certain narratives, for certain meanings. And then what's happened is, in the wake of this, you've had people that have rebelled against religion. And in doing so, they have then kind of launched an onslaught against faith and attacked faith and declared it to be unreasonable, illogical, full of contradictions and fallacies and outdated and so on. And as a consequence of this, many people have struggled with their faith, especially those who live in the West, but even Muslims. Let's use, namely Muslims we're speaking about, we're concerned with, in the East. So whether from the holiest of the holies, if we're gonna go to Saudi Arabia, to other very kind of traditionally deep-rooted religious countries like Pakistan or Iran, or these kind of countries, are all struggling with the rise of atheism as well. And yeah, so it's important to just put this out there as the kind of landscape, the backdrop. Now, let's zone in and focus on Islam, revelation, and why do we feel that reason is so important. You will see that the whole Quran, because we want to rest our discourse based on the Quran, it is really addressing people by way of reason. It's inviting them. You see, let's understand something. Most of everybody who's going to watch this, and they are Muslim, were born into a Muslim family. Most of. So you've got an exception, people who converted to the faith. But that's a tiny minority of Muslims, tiny, incredibly tiny minority. The vast majority of Muslims were born Muslim. So they never had to ever reason their faith. They've never had to come to the faith by way of reason as a default position. They were just born Muslim, told that there is one God, Allah, and this is the book of Allah, the Quran, and the messenger was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so on and so forth. However, when revelation is coming down in the lifetime of the Prophet, it is not taking any such elements for granted like this. They are not born Muslims that exist. Everybody that is coming in contact with revelation is being invited to the faith. Now that's incredibly different, because when you invite someone, now think about it, if you were to invite someone to the faith, how would that be? What would you do to invite someone to something? Sorry, not faith, let's say anything. Let's say you want to invite someone to join you at something, or to be part of a venture, business venture, or some kind of an outing, or some kind of anything, a hobby. You want somebody to join you on your particular event, whatever it may be. You reason it with them because you show them that this is in their interest to do so. Now, if it's a worldly event, you may justify it by finances, or we're going to make a lot of money by doing this, or we're going to do that. And you show them the facts and figures, and people think, that actually sounds quite interesting. I want to be a part of that. So now you move on to ideas. Like if you want to say, well, oh my God, you need to watch this sport. Why? What's so good about, it's so interesting, it does this, or you should really support this particular person. Why? Because he's done this and he's done that. And this is how people share interests. When it comes to faith, you have to invite people to it. Now, the Quran invites people. It says, that man sha, whosoever wants, let them. Yataqaddam, or falyu'min, let them believe. Or falyakfur, let them disbelieve. It does tell them about an afterlife. Do you not think that there will be an afterlife? Do you not think that we will bring these bones back? Do you think that God is incapable? It does discuss these things. But remember, these are all, these are elements of the kind of consequences or rewards. And it does address that. But then what it does is it tackles the issue at hand, which is what they are involved in. You see, because people already have a religion, So you will ask them, people have a way of life. You will ask them, well, what is it that you're doing? Have you thought about that? The Quran will ask them. It asks them that أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, and this is one of the verses, that do they not travel in the earth? Do they not traverse the earth? فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا, so that they may have hearts. And it uses the word hearts here, but it's interchangeable with intellect. In the Arabic language, they would use the heart for the seat of cognition as well, as in many languages. That is also used. قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا أَوْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا, do they not have ears which they listen by? فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ, the eyes are not blind, وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبِ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ, but it is the hearts that are blind. This is one example. Now, what is incredibly interesting about this about this verse, and I can try to, whilst we're at it, just bring this back up. You can see that there, so I'll bring that up for you there, that look, أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, that do they not travel in the earth? Why I find this verse incredibly compelling to begin with. Allah explains to us that, look, you want to think about things, you want to reflect, you want to ponder, what should you do? Travel. Allah, travel. Because it is by traversing, by setting off, you will encounter new things. What's the point of, what does that do when you encounter new things? It challenges pre-existing narratives. You see, if you just stay in your echo chamber, your micro echo chamber, so the people of Mecca, let's say, or whichever tribal Arabs, they're in this small little tribe, and they just live there, and that's it. They've just got these same stories they had since they were kids, and they've got that now. But all of a sudden, they start traveling. They go to the southern kingdoms. They go to the northern Arabian kingdoms. You meet the Romans, the Greeks, the Persians. You meet different people. You will see things, objects, creatures, nature, things that you've never seen before. And it reminds you how much you do not know. So one of the most important lessons we take straight away by this verse is that the importance to get out there, to explore. It is only by encountering new people and situations a person realizes how much they are trapped in a box, fenced in their own little world. So, and another amazing thing about this ayah that I absolutely love is the different senses that Allah is bringing our attention to. Not just cognition, but the visual, the auditory. That's amazing, because you see, now we have in many educational practices now, people speak about, there's different types of learners. There's visual learners, there's, you have kinesthetic learners and auditory learners, and, people who learn, they rely on different things. And it's amazing that Allah is addressing them. It's just like a nugget. It's like just a gem that Allah is addressing them at. This is 1400 years ago, saying that, look, you want to ponder, you want to learn that, yes, travel, movement, visual, auditory, reflection. Allah, and look, You have Surah Baqarah, كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. And thus Allah explains His ayat, His signs, if only لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Gosh. Or it could be seen as that, but it could also be seen as in the hope that you guys, and you know, ta'qilun is the verb that is to do with aql. So it has, if I bring that back, you're going to see it. I mean, you can't see the cursor, but just the second verse at the bottom, you can see after the ta, the word ayn, qaf, lam. And then it's got waw and noon, but the ayn, qaf, lam, aql, are at the center. That is the verb. So that's how it is. Aqila yaqil. So it's about having, using your intellect. Afala taqilun. Do you not use your intellect, your aql? Who is telling you to use your aql? Allah is telling you to use your aql. Today, it's embarrassing that sometimes some people, they denigrate aql. It is the greatest thing that, as the greatest blessing we as a species have. Let's be honest. If you think about it, we are termed or dubbed, as certain scientists would say, as the third chimpanzee. That's what, some scientists would say that, let's say aliens came to Earth and they saw chimpanzees, they saw things like, orangutans, they saw gorillas, they saw the whole ape family. They would see us, to the alien eye, we would be just hairless apes. That's all. We wouldn't actually be so different. We'd be just very similar to them, except without the hair. And we're not incredibly strong. We're not, humans are not the apex kind of creatures. We're just in the middle of the food chain. We're not that kind of, we're okay. We may be stronger than some creatures, and we're definitely not stronger than many out there. But yet insan, with this aql, has kind of cast a net on the cosmos. Allah. And brought it right down infinitesimally right down to the quantum. You see, from there right back to here. And that's an amazing verse, even though we're not covering that verse today, but it's an amazing verse to bring in. Once again, speaking about verses, Allah says, وَسَنُرِيهِمْ, we will show them the ayat, the signs, fil afaq, out there in the cosmos, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, and right into, and some people just meant, oh, this was like biological, but no, at a quantum level, you go right in until it becomes absolute apparent that this is the truth, or that God is the truth. So now aql, this is what the demarcating factor that distinguishes us from other species. So let's take a look. We've got these verses, once again, Surah Baqarah, and there are many verses. I believe the verse ta'qilun, the word ta'qilun, appears in the Quran, I believe, 24 times, about 24 times, I believe. And just to give you an idea where Allah is reminding us about and reminding humans about using the intellect, using the voice of reason. Now, these were two of the verses I chose, and there's many to choose, but I thought these are quite amazing. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do they not ponder over this Quran? If it was from other than God, they would have found many inconsistencies, many contradictions in it. And that's Surah An-Nisa, verse 82. And then you've also got this verse, which we'll just come to in a moment, from Surah Al-Ma'idah. But why this? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ? Because how does one ponder over the Quran without reason? Reason is the only it is the only arbiter that can be used between two parties in a dispute. It is the only, especially in where you're trying to establish truth. Truth claims can only be arbitrated by way of reason. So if I disagree with you about something, the only way, the best we have got on this earth as human beings is reason. That can be the only, that we can agree on something that makes sense to whatever it is to judge between us. That's all, that's how reason works. That's why you have a discussion or a dialogue or a debate or conversations, because we can use this as a judge between us. If we don't use that as a judge, then what is a possible alternative? You couldn't say anything else. Ultimately, we can just begin with reason, because you couldn't say emotions are a judge between us. Nobody would agree with. You couldn't just say what the other person, even beliefs, just saying beliefs are not an arbiter. Like if I had a discussion with you and I just said, well, I believe everything I say is the truth. Now, you'd be like, well, okay, that doesn't make, I say, but I believe it so. You see, the only way we can come to a meaningful understanding would be by way of reason. You'd have to say, well, okay, so long as everything you do say is true, then I accept that, but it doesn't mean everything you say must be the truth. Or if somebody said, well, I believe I believe I'm a unicorn, or I believe I'm from the planet Mars, or I believe I'm from another galaxy. Just believing something doesn't make it so. You see, you can only come to terms by using them. This is why Allah repeatedly reminds us in the Quran. And remember, this is to a people who weren't born Muslim. So they have to come to it by thinking about it. So Allah says, hey, what don't they look at these camels the way they've أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ? Do they not look at the sky? How is that? Do they not look at bees around them? Ain't they an amazing kind that we have? Do they not look at, and Allah constantly reminds them, do they not look at the natural cycles that are found of whether it's rain and crops and harvests and fruits? Do they not look at how the dead, barren earth brings things back to life? Do they not? So this, time upon time, we are invited to think about things and reason. And here in this verse, it's important because Allah is inviting them to find contradictions. Allah. This is why I totally love this verse. And there's another one, just like أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا, or do the hearts have a lock? And what's fascinating, by the way, about that verse is people don't translate this. Am ala qulubin aqfaluha. Do the hearts have their locks? So the locks of the hearts, aqfaluha, which goes to show that hearts have a lock. I mean, we're not talking about physical, but we're talking about something that bars cognition or any kind of meaningful penetration, in the sense of enhancement. Okay, so and I know today, you know what's fascinating is, just on a tangent, we've now come to learn that the heart does have a certain amount of neural activity. It's small. I think it's just about 40,000 neurons, which is nothing compared to the billions of connections within the brain, the circuitry. But it still does have some neurons within the heart. And what's much more magnificent than that is the heart projects an electromagnetic kind of sphere, or a kind of a signal that can be extended around the person, anything between 3 to 6 feet in all directions around us. Like, we are actually projecting. Can you believe that? I mean, just think about it. You can, in your own time, YouTube that. But it's that verse is incredible. Aqfaluha, and people don't seem to pay attention to that. It shows that all hearts have a lock. You see, Allah's just saying, is it switched on? Am ala qulubin aqfaluha. You see, but okay, put that aside for a moment. So come back here. The Quran is confidently inviting people to critique it. It is inviting people to critique it. It's saying that, لو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. They would have, look, find, read, think. It's inviting those people, ponder, catch out mistakes, reason with us, have a dialogue. Look how confident the discourse of the Quran is. I love it, honestly. It's like, it really just oozes this confidence that, come on, show us where we've gone wrong. And that should be the nature of the believer. You see, that's where the Quran sets the bar. And what we've got to do is to aspire to rise to that level. So one thing we should never worry about is finding contradictions or being worried that, oh my God, this might be wrong. Some people, and the irony is, sometimes people, they scare others away from reason. They say that, no, Islam isn't built on reason. Don't ask too many questions, because then you're going to get stuck. And they say you're going to lose your faith. But the Quranic discourse is entirely different. In Surah Nisa, verse 82, the Quran is saying, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ. And it's not even saying, أَفَلَا يَقْرَؤُونَ. It's saying, do tadabbur, which means to go over again and again and again and again. Just bring out some contradictions for us. I mean, bring it to the table. It's requesting, because it wants to engage people, even by this angle, because some people, they're not interested. And it's saying, well, okay, I tell you what, can I interest you by way of this? Find a mistake in it. Okay, just tell me what's wrong with the message. And I find that so fascinating that I thought that we definitely have to take a look at that verse. And I think sometimes people, they glide over the beauty of that verse. They say that, look, Allah is saying there's no contradiction in it, but they glide over the confidence, the spirit, the aura in which the Quran conveys it, and welcomes, urges, requests that, just critique me. And that really should show us how confident we should be about scripture. We shouldn't be somebody that's scared or shies away, or I mean, and I get it. I'm not trying to say that everybody has to be like this. Some people, by their very nature, they're not into, let's say, academics, or into polemics, or into even just reading. Unfortunately, some people are not into that. I get that. So it may not be for everyone, but for those who want to, it is there for them. Right now, the fourth verse here, and I thought this is incredibly fascinating. We have to take a look at, let's include this, and we'll finish with this, that وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ, when they are invited to scripture and revelation, وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ, and to the messenger, قَالُوا حَسْبُنَا مَا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا, they say, our traditions are enough for us. Right. أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, even if their fathers, their ancestors, that they did not know. Now, it's interesting that they did not have knowledge is used. Allah doesn't say that even though they, he could have just said that they were misguided, they were pagans, they were this, they were, no. Allah says they did not have knowledge. Okay, so it's inviting you. وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, and look at the verse that is used. وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, and they weren't guided. It's amazing that, look, when, first of all, there's so many things we can just unpack from this verse. One thing straight away about the etiquette, that you see, to the Arabs, their ancestors were so dear. It was everything. My tribe and my patrilineal kind of ancestry, and so on and so forth. And Allah says, لَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, they didn't have ilm, وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, and they were not rightly guided. Allah did not say here that, oh, they were misguided. Look at the wording just from an etiquette perspective, from you have in meaningful engagement. You see, doesn't say, in this particular verse, when speaking about the aba, doesn't say kanu dalin or dallu. It says la yahtadun, they were not guided rightly. That softens, cushions the kind of discourse, and has it in a very respectful way, that they didn't have ilm. So that's one of the things straight away coming to us about the importance of ilm and how it's linked to guidance. But also, most importantly, and this is the reason why I chose this verse that we've got here in Surah Ma'idah 104, is that when people are brought face to face with something that challenges them, it is common nature that they will cling to their traditions, that whatever they are nested in, their comfort zones, people will just say, whoa, I stick with my comfort zone. I'm not prepared to be challenged intellectually. So seeing this reply is always a very poor reply, because it can be disappointing to hear it at times from Muslims, that when presented with something, they say, well, this is how we always did things, or this is how we always saw things, because the Quran only cites that example for these people who reject the Quran, to say an answer like that this is how, this is something new, and I don't know, my ancestors did things in this way. That's every time that is mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned negatively from a people who reject God, the messenger, revelation, and reason. So I think these verses I thought are incredibly important to share, to say, well, the message of the Quran so brightly shines in our direction that it is always important to resort to the greatest gift that Allah has given us, to understand right from wrong, okay, and to understand truth from falsehood. In fact, let me put it more like that, to understand truth from falsehood, because I think right from wrong at a very base level, I feel is more tied into the morality instinct that we have. And then it's fashioned by socialization. But I feel that we have an instinct at a very base level, whereas determining truth from falsehood is not an instinct. It's not to do with it. It's to do with our ilm and our learning and the voice of reason. I thought it was really important to share this. I know I speak about it often, but I thought it was high time to do that again. Guys, let's go to some of your comments now. I hope that's been beneficial, taking a look at some of these verses. Before I, in fact, just move off from that, I'll show those verses once again. You've got from Surah Ma'idah 104, you've got Surah An-Nisa, verse 82, you've got Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 242, you've got Surah Al-Hajj, verse 46. Okay, so they were the verses we took a look at in today's lesson. Walillahi alhamd. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always increase us in the voice of reason and never allow us to succumb to insecurities that whereby we become shy or afraid of engaging meaningful discourses or using the voice of reason. And even if this means that sometimes, look, we may not have the answers, but I assure you somebody does. Okay. Just because we may not know the answers to something, other people definitely will. And I know, just to clarify here, I think it's incredibly important. Some people will say, well, actually, the ultimate arbiter is always revelation. And I've mentioned this before. This is a false dichotomy. Anybody who says that, this argument is really a false, it's a false universal, it's a false dichotomy, it's a misleading hypothesis, really. And that is that to say that, is it revelation or reason? Because it doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, are you first a human, or are you first a male or a female? I suppose nowadays gendered discourse, or it's how people would say, are you let's say whatever ethnicity you are, or are you a father, or are you a man, or are you a Muslim first, or are you this first? But these are just relative statements. The person is that. Okay, so it's a meaningless statement to say to someone, is revelation before reason or reason before revelation. It doesn't really make, it may seem to make sense, but it's a misleading statement. Okay, it's because you can only understand revelation through reason. So they both, obviously, it's like saying, it's like the chicken egg statement. It doesn't make any sense. Now, what people, so camp A, so here you do have a kind of argument sometimes going on, and you might see it. So let's say this camp A, who say that, or this particular camp who say it's, voice of reason can be demonic and it's always revelation. What they really mean to say, if we're to do justice and steal our, Iron Man their argument, or Steel Man their argument for them, is they are to say desires. That's what they're really trying to say. That your whimsical and capricious desires versus revelation. And obviously, it's always revelation that triumphs. That goes without saying. So it's not, they don't really mean reason. What they, even though they may think they mean it, what they actually mean is your opinion to reject or not, your disinterest in something. Does that triumph over revelation? So what they're trying to say is, imagine a person said, yeah, okay, this may be from God, but I don't want to do that, or I don't want to. Does your opinion get a say over God? This is ultimately what they're boiling it down to, but they are completely misrepresenting the question by saying, is it reason versus revelation? Because that wouldn't make any sense at all, because revelation can only be understood by reason. If somebody was mentally handicapped, they wouldn't be able to understand anything. You wouldn't have, it's a ridiculous statement. It's like saying something visual and the person is blind. So you say, well, is it the visual representation or is it the eye? It's the visual object always over the eye. It gets preference, and that doesn't make any sense, because it's dependent on the eye to be able to see it, or somebody's eye. But if everybody was blind, then it's meaningless, the visual representation, because you can't benefit from it without. So if we didn't have brains, or if we were all mentally handicapped, or we couldn't reason, then we would be غير مكلف. So that argument is just wrongly fashioned. And I won't go into it now, but I would advise you to, I have a video actually, it's called The Role of Reason in Religion. It's on YouTube, do watch it. I go into this whole backdrop of why this propaganda began historically, why this discussion even began, that is it reason versus religion within the Muslim circles. And it was just a consequence of a cold war between certain sectarian factions, which then spilt over for centuries, and we've inherited it as well. Today, what's added to that is atheism has also bashed religion quite severely. So people are ultra scared and in a state of shock. So they find it safer not to resort to reason, because they think if we do resort to reason, the atheists will get one over us, which is not true. The Quran is very confident that people are more than welcome to critique it. There are no contradictions in the Quran. Maybe people think there might be, but there ain't. So that's something incredibly important to highlight. Whenever people come up with this discussion, it's a false dichotomy, reason versus revelation. It's a false dichotomy. All right, so let's move on to some of your thoughts. Dervish Johnson has made a very good point here, but reason obviously has its limits. It absolutely does have its limits. It's like saying vision. It has its limits. We can't see, infrared, but it doesn't mean, so, we can't see certain things, but it's the best we can do when it comes to seeing. I mean, we can enhance things, we can create equipment, but it's all we have when it comes to seeing. So when it comes to understanding things, all we have is reason and the brain. And if you're going to say, well, the brain is limited, it is limited. The brain is limited, even though it's incredibly powerful, but it's limited, and thereby human faculties are limited and modalities are limited, and our ability to deduct and induct and to have these kind of, and comprehension is limited, but it's the best we've got in understanding things. Okay, so it's, put it like this, religion and reason go hand in hand. Okay, they are not enemies or rivals, they are allies. Okay, anybody that presents them as rivals or as enemies may be somebody who has a bone to pick against religion. So they may be people who hate religion and therefore are trying to say, well, reason is anti-religion and religion is anti-reason. But when religious people use that argument, they're just shooting themselves in the foot, because religion and reason go hand in hand. They have never been at loggerheads with each other, or they should never have been. That's a nice statement, Nabs. Logic is limited and reason knows the limits of logic. So look, how do you navigate reason when it reaches its inherent limitations? You navigate it as best as you possibly can. But then beyond that, if it's beyond human reason, it's beyond human comprehension at this current state. So that's fine. You see, we're talking here because I don't know what you're talking about. You could be talking about science. You could be talking about physics. When you're talking about religion, religion is friendly. Islam, anyway, is friendly to reason. In fact, it's locked into reason. So, yeah. And it doesn't mean you have absolute, comprehension of everything. Of course you don't. But you go with what you have. Shukran, Nabs. Shukran. All right. Mercy D. Law. Much love from you too, in it. Much love, much love. Right. There was Icy Saracen. Shukran. And much love for the super chat. Mufti, based on what you said, do you think there is a split between first world Muslims and third world Muslims? Do you think first worlders should abandon the third world? No, I'm not sure what you mean by is there a split. I mean, from some perspectives, it could be argued there is a split economically, there is a split in terms of lifestyle, there is a split in terms of, I don't know, certain cultural elements. If that's what you mean. From some aspects there isn't a split. We're still just as human as they are. We still we have just the same capabilities as they do as human beings, that is. So I'm not quite sure. And no, we shouldn't abandon the third world. If you mean by that the third world are misrepresenting religion due to culture, I think that maybe many people, not just third world. So we do find it in, you'll find it in the first world as well. So you'll find people who will, so for example, let's take a look at America, the Bible Belt. You'll have people, flat earthers, evangelicals. They are Americans. They live in a first world, incredibly privileged part of the world, and yet some of them are so dogmatic. And that's actually a good point. And shukran for reminding me, Icy Saracen, that if you want to understand dogmatism, look at people of other faiths. You know what's incredibly interesting is when we look at others, so to speak, we become incredibly reason-based. So if you're looking at evangelism, Christian evangelists, you will become the voice of reason all of a sudden. You'll become, this is, I'll tell you what's wrong here, blah, blah, blah. This is wrong here. This is rational. This is counter reason. This is illogical. This is this. Same thing if you were having if you were speaking about faith, let's say you're looking at Hinduism. Now, Hinduism is not built on the voice of reason. It's an Eastern religion. It's not a Western religion. So it doesn't predicate itself on reason. But that said, if you look at Hinduism, you'll immediately switch on, this is as a Muslim, your voice of reason. And you'll be like, aha, but this doesn't add up, that doesn't add up, blah, 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 blah. It's only, and what you have to do is use those same lights when thinking about yourself as well. And I get that this may not be for everyone. And I'm not saying everybody needs to do this. You see, human beings vary. It's like we're on a spectrum. Okay, there's a continuum. Many people there are certain people in this world who are geniuses. Okay, most people are not geniuses, and there are some people in this world who are mentally challenged and unfortunately, with learning disabilities, but they too are not most people. Most people are in the middle, that they are actually quite intelligent. They're not geniuses, but they are quite intelligent, and they can, if given the circumstances, apply good reason. They can, if given the circumstances. So that's what Islam is, just range. It's spread right across that. Some people, they don't want to, they're not going to be inclined to, I want to investigate, I want to learn, I just want to get by in life. All I know is I just work, I go to a factory, or I do this, I'm a farmer, I do this, I come home, I go to sleep. I wake up in the morning, I go to work, I take care of my family, that's all I do. Islam has no problem. Islam commends that. Okay, it's for everyone. It's not telling everyone to apply the voice of reason to everything and to become these super thinkers, because everybody's not like that. But those who are like that, it invites them. And to them, it gives deeper meanings. But it also gives meaning to this person, to this farmer, to these rural people, to these country folk, to the person who just works, the laborers who just work and that's it. And, the working class. Because let's be honest, the working class generally are not going to be your kind of the people that are going to sit down and philosophize. Although, I know in the modern first world, I suppose you have kind of dribs and drabs, you have people in between, but for the most part, people are not like that. They're not going to be those. But they can. They're also intelligent if they want to, but if they don't want to, that's fine. So Islam is giving a choice, not to be misunderstood. It's not saying everybody needs to always be, ulil nuha and ulil albab and ulil absar and ahlul ilm and ahlul dhikr. And no, people, Quran never says that. It says, but they're special. But those who are ulil nuha or ulil albab, they will find a special meaning. Allah. So yes, it rewards them more if they go into it. Those who don't want to go into it, it rewards them more with meanings. Those who don't want to, it's absolutely welcomes them. It's wonderful for them as well. So I hope that makes sense. The problem is when one group of people want to impose on others. That is the problem. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to use the voice of reason, who doesn't want to contemplate or ponder or to critique or to look or to, you're not interested, that's absolutely fine. Islam is still absolutely will add value to your life in the way that you adopt it. But you are not to impose it onto others. Even this voice of reason, look, this voice of reason is not to be just imposed on other people. It's not. It's there for whoever it resonates with, it comes to it. It doesn't go to them, they come to it. You see, it would be absurd to go to all people and say, you better start pondering, you better start reflecting, you better. It'd be crazy. Just think about it. So, so that's, I hope that makes sense. Yep. All right, so let's take a look at some of your questions. Right, Waker, you're doing it with the super chat. Much love. Look at this. Kya baat hai yaar. Sectarian practicing Muslims and Muslims reluctant to use reason and sticking to old values are more a threat to Islam than atheists. Need your input. You see, Yes and no. Human consciousness, just like sports, only some can enter the Olympics. Mufti is much love, yeah. No, so look, I don't feel that. Where's the question gone? That right. So Muslims who don't want to practice the voice of reason, or are averse to the voice of reason, or are averse to using, being intellectual about the faith, they themselves, or doing that, are not a problem to the faith. They are not causing a problem by doing that. The problem is when they try to impose that on other people, or they try to represent Islam like that. That becomes a problem. So them doing it is not a problem. So if 99% of the Muslims decided we're not going to use reason, and we're not going to even ponder with reason over the Quran, and we're not going to reflect, and Islam has nothing to do with science, and Islam is it doesn't even believe in science, or doesn't even believe in mathematics. It doesn't. Even if 99% of the Muslims believe that, not that they do, it doesn't. The problem is when you try to represent Islam with that, like you become a voice piece for Islam, pushing it onto others like that, or pushing it onto, and that others could also be non-Muslims. That's the problem. Okay, so your personal belief about something is not an issue. I mean, it may, whether it's right or wrong or whatever is a different discussion, but it's not really a problem. You could believe that I believe Islam encourages us to, it never wants me to think. Okay, that's your thought. I wouldn't actually come and argue with you. I wouldn't be interested in arguing with you. That's absolutely fine. It's your life, it's your belief, it's your take on Islam. It has, the problem is if you got onto TV and started now representing Islam like that, that would be a problem. So there is a big difference in practicing something as a person and representing and being an ambassador for something is something very different. Right. So what is going on? The problem is that you view Islam through the weakness of your faith. Sure. I take it the you there is the universal you and not the me you. Because I don't feel that Islam is weak by any measure. So let's see. You claiming to be a Muslim fatwa is the problem, and your opinion is absolutely fine. Your take. You claiming to be a Mufti. I'm not claiming to be a Mufti. I am a Mufti. There is, I don't get, well, that's like saying if you are a qualified doctor, you're a qualified doctor. It doesn't mean, to say to somebody you're claiming to be a doctor or you claim to be a mathematician. If you are a mathematician, you are a mathematician. It's not, sure, somebody could say, I think you're a terrible mathematician. That's fine. Somebody could say, I think, you're an awful doctor. That's fine. But it's not about you claiming to be a doctor. I don't claim to be. I am one. So it's as simple as that. I mean, I get the fact that people may or may not like that. Right. So right. All right. Look at that. Mufti's laugh. Shukran. Right. Now, thought, where did you get the headphones from? These headphones are epic, people. All right, so Right. So let's see. Okay. We'll take a look at I'll just go through some of the chats in case I miss some of the super chats as well. And then what I'll do is I'll share the link. All right. We got someone from, all right, Omar, HMP. Allahu Akbar. Reason in the religion when right. Okay, here's a super chat. We missed this one. Sakandar, shukran, much love for the super chat. If we solely take reason, do we neglect the spiritual, ineffable experience religion has to offer? No, not at all. So the experience or the experiential side of religion is actually the most important part of religion. Just because something is also important within it does not, so reason does play an incredible part in religion. But like I said, for some people, it doesn't have to. So people are not the religion. There is a big difference. So it is an incredibly important part of the religion. So a huge part of the Quran is just addressing and invoking the voice of reason. So you couldn't, 24 verses of the Quran mention أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not use your aql? You couldn't remove those verses from the Quran. That would be a sacrilege. So it doesn't mean the people, you see, that you're mixing the religion with the people. People don't need to, it doesn't need to be a big part of their lives, but it's a big part of the religion. So, for example, a big part of the religion is helping people. Doesn't mean a big part of everybody's life is to help people, unfortunately. You see, like many people may not help people for the most part in their lives. They may occasionally help people. For the most part, they may be very self-centered. They're still Muslims. They could still live and pray and, and fast in Ramadan and do everything. They could still live a normal religious life. Of course, I would feel that they missed a core part of the religion, but that's them. If they're going to do that's them. So it's not, and really faith came, Islam did not come to bolster the voice of reason. Okay, so Islam did not come to kind of nitro boost our reason. You know why? Because we as human beings would do that anyway. Because that's what makes human beings incredible, is the voice of reason. It is only our intellect that makes us special as a species. Otherwise, we are nothing on this earth without the aql. And so Islam did not come to do that. Islam did not come to say, hey, I want you all to be geniuses, or I want you all to have, to kind of raise your intellect game. Because human beings by their very nature know that that's what they want to do, or especially those who want to excel amongst them want to do that. So Islam didn't come for that. Islam, just as Islam did not come to say, Islam did not come to raise the bar on global economics. Neither did it come to raise the bar on trade, or did it come to raise the bar on nutrition, because these are human things. Human beings will do them anyway. Islam came to connect people with the divine. And that is the ineffable, the qualitative, the real meaning behind Islam. So that is absolutely true. But yes, of course, to invite people, it has to nest its kalam in the voice of reason. Otherwise, how else do you invite people? So it does invoke the voice of reason whilst it's speaking and addressing people, but it didn't come to promote the voice of reason in the sense that it didn't come to demote it, but that's a human effort. It doesn't need to do that. Human beings, insan, would do that anyway. So the real purpose and objective of Islam is to connect insan with, with Allah. That is the only, and that is a path that it has put us on, which, you're right, can't actually be described in words, truly speaking, the qualitative experiences of that. Madrasa boy, salam Mufti Sahib, big fan of yours. What do you think of ex-Muslims and I was Hafiz? I'm not sure what that means. And I was Hafiz and ex-Muslim. Do you mean you are an ex-Muslim, or is that what you mean? Or is your internet, is there an internet issue? All right, somebody wants to see me on a particular podcast. I'm not sure what that podcast is, but yeah, reach out, connect with me, and we can do that. Mufti, good evening. Would you visit New York in the future? Yes, of course, inshallah. Why not? Of course, of course. Yes, I am an ex-Muslim madrasa boy. Here's quite an interesting tag name, shall we say, to have. Madrasa boy. Right. What do I think of ex-Muslims? I think people should leave ex-Muslims alone. That's my genuine thoughts. I feel that if ex-Muslims are interested in dialogue, then Muslims who feel capable should engage them in dialogue. But if not, they should just leave them alone. They shouldn't kind of taunt them. They shouldn't bully them. They shouldn't harass them. They shouldn't threaten them. They shouldn't insult them. These people, for the most part, have had a bad experience with some Muslims. And for the most part, we'll find that many ex-Muslims usually have left Islam due to interactions, and often harsh interactions with certain Muslims. So it's quite an experiential affair. And adding more harmful, hurtful, insulting behavior to that can in no way remedies that situation or crisis or whatever it is. So sure, if somebody, to me, Islam does not need me or you or anybody else. If somebody wants to be a part of Islam, I feel Islam offers them an incredibly powerful and such a meaningful narrative in life that it takes them to another plateau. That's me personally speaking. I don't feel Islam falls short in any or is crushed or even drops to any real criticism. I don't feel. Yet sure, maybe some people's interpretations, but I've not seen it in my experience. So if somebody wants to be a part of Islam, ahlan wa sahlan. If they don't want to be a part of Islam, it's their choice, it's their life. Allah has given them that choice. It's nothing to do with me or you. And shouting and swearing and insulting is not going to make anything better. And it's not the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to shout and swear and to to kind of taunt and then to bully people just because it doesn't make any. So that's my views on this. That said, I do think that some, not all, some ex-Muslims don't kind of help the situation by their actions. Okay, so I get the fact that they're angry, and in some cases, maybe their anger, maybe they've been treated very badly and their anger is justified. I get that. But doing certain highly provocative kind of events, or insulting and cursing Muslims equally from their side. It's, well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out, how that's going to end. That, and I don't mean in brutality, but I mean it's going to just down spiral into just toxic negativity, because you're going to swear at someone, they're going to swear back at you, you're going to swear at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then Muslims are going to give you death threats, and then you're going to swear back, insult them, they're going to do this, and you're trapped in this web. My genuine advice is, if a person has doubts about Islam and they are, they will be one of two camps. One camp is somebody who they're genuinely concerned. Like, I've heard this critique of Islam, it's bothered me, I left Islam, but it's really played on my mind, I want to learn. I want to understand, was there any way to answer this? They should, if they can, reach out to people who are grounded in reason and have a very deep understanding of Islam, and reach out to them. Scholars, imams, I'm not sure what country, online, and inshallah, maybe they may get some answers that may help them on this journey, maybe not. Then you get another group of people who've left Islam and they're just categorically not interested in Islam. Okay, so to them, Islam, let's say it's a fairy tale. I do not. So this person is saying, I don't believe in Islam. They're saying, look, I don't want anything to do with Islam. Take it. It doesn't. What my advice to them is, just live your life. Just carry on. You want to change your name, change your name. You want to do something, do it. Just live your life. I would honestly, that's my genuine advice, that just leave it alone then. Leave Islam alone if you want to leave it. If you want to engage it, then remember, this is going to become a lifelong affair now. It's going to become like back and forth, and you're going to get more, and it's going to start down spiraling, and people do things like they go online, live stream, and they desecrate the Quran. I mean, what's that all about? And so I honestly, I find it disgusting to do stuff like this, to do with any faith. I would be equally disgusted if they did that with any religion. Because it's like, what is that even about? Why are you purposely trying to boil the blood of, 1 billion people on this earth? Why? Like, I mean, fair enough. You say, look, like I say, here's a book. I don't like what this book has to say. Then don't read it. I don't get what the difficulty is. Somebody says, I don't like what that person has to say. Well, don't listen to him. Live life, chill, enjoy. But so that's my advice to both people. To Muslims, it would be to leave them alone, and to ex-Muslims, it would be, if you're curious about learning, then you should engage and learn. And if you're not, and you've had enough, then leave it alone. Allahu A'lam, but that's how I kind of see things. Right now, can you do an episode on Ismail al-Jazari, who's the grandfather of robotics in the 12th century, might inspire Muslims to be innovative, open-minded? That is, shukran. Icy Saracen, you know what? Shukran. Look at all the love and support. You're doing it, Yard. You're doing it. Much love. Sure, I have actually many... I don't know, a few years back, I spoke once on how... Imam al-Qarafi from the Malikiya, how he worked in robotics. He had his early, 700 years ago, or 600-700 years ago, his version of where he had made a particular a kind of clock that had certain, robotics is a very modern term, but certain kind of structures where little figurines would come out, they would move, they would there would be a bird that would come out and make a sound at a particular hour, and it would, just how you have the cuckoo clock, but the kind of but it would also have other things, like certain figurines move at this thing and they do certain things, and they really do seem in some way well ahead of their times. Go the Aussies. All right, Fahad Alam, much love. Dervish Johnson, shukran and much love for the super chat. While Ghazali ditched reason at the end of his spiritual journey, would you agree the truth only resides outside human reality? I don't think the truth resides only outside of human reality. I think it also resides outside of the human reality, but it does reside within our reality as well. But while Ghazali ditched reason, you see, Imam al-Ghazali was a scientist of his day and age, and he was a great scientist and a philosopher. And by scientist, I mean people who observed nature and the world around them. They observed biology, they observed the laws of physics in their day and age. So he speaks about he'll speak about planetary motion, he'll speak about all this kind of stuff. He speaks about the senses and perception and sensation and all of this kind of stuff. And he was an incredible philosopher, but he found himself at some point in his life in a crisis of faith, one which he couldn't reconcile with reason, or he couldn't bridge with reason. So he found himself with a gap, and he needed to get across that gap, that kind of leap. And that leap he could only make by sheer faith. And he felt that reason broke down. And I feel that's true to some extent, that reason is limited. I do also feel that we have gotten much further than he was 900 years ago. So today with quantum physics, it's a bit of a game changer, because quantum physics has taught us things that, and it has raised the bar of reason. So I'm not saying it's, we're like, but we are definitely somewhat, more enhanced in our awareness of reality, and by what, so understandings that which are now then part of reason, you see, because in his time you only had logic, and logic falls short. So let me give you a prime example. So logic would teach you that one body, so Ghazali would have this in his books as well, and other people as well, that by logical, a logical corollary of certain understandings would be that one body cannot occupy two distinct spaces at the same given time. So this cup cannot be here and here simultaneously, occupying two geometric locations in the same instant. It cannot do that. And in fact, that was considered something they called from the Badhiyat, that they knew by default, what maybe Kant would refer to as the categoricals. So, whereas quantum physics has changed that now. We know about superpositions. And something I refer to when it comes to the ontological nature of the Quran, I borrow that term from quantum physics about the superpositions, superpositional ontology, the nature of the Quran in relation to its reader, that it has superpositions. But this superpositions of one subatomic, in the subatomic realm, things have different laws. So this has expanded how we understand reality. If you look at the quantum eraser experiment, it also gets you one step closer in understanding predestination. You see, and we could never have done that before. And I think also now how we understand time. You see, the ancients almost, it's interesting. I spoke to speaking to Professor Faisal Mir. I love speaking to him. And I advise you all, seriously, I keep saying this, if you've got access to geniuses or people who are really good at something, they really know something, try and always speak to them, pick their brains, because it's like going through a whole class of something in just one conversation. So I always love kind of picking the brains of these people I have fortunate enough to have good contact with. So, and he's one of the most, world renowned physicists when it comes to quantum gravity. He's a world renowned authority on quantum gravity. He runs the quantum gravity center in Canada. But we were I've forgotten now what I was going to say. But the whole point is that, you see, we've got somewhat of a closer understanding to certain things, like even time. Oh, yes, this was it. And Dr. Faisal said to me, he said, it's interesting, the early theologians, Muslim or Christian or whoever, they seem to treat time, they seem to absolutize time more than they do God. And it's interesting, they do this unconsciously, of course. So they will say God is pre-eternal. That's amazing, you see, because what they don't get is, you see, that they don't understand how time works. But that's because they're running on notions which are pre, 20th century, when we've got a greater understanding of how time works. So they're running on a thing where there's a linearity of time. And they assume that time works in a way that, so God is pre-eternal. So they have that God himself, they have to explain him in relation to time. And this is why the Quran never uses that word. But Muslims do in their theology, but this was influenced also by Greek theology and Christian theology as well, that Allah is Qadim. You see, they use the word Qadim, but Allah never uses that word to describe himself in the Quran, because Allah obviously knows that time doesn't work. It doesn't exist. But we don't understand that. It's only recently with Einstein, we've come to understand how time is relative and how it is actually space-time dimension. It is one of the dimensions and the curvature of space and time, but also coming to understand that it's just an illusion. So what I'm trying to say is that we are still, we're still a lot to learn, but we do know certain things more than people 900 years ago about reality when it comes to the observable reality, which can then help us in our faith as well. So people in the past, they did an incredible job. They were geniuses. I mean, somebody like Imam Ghazali he was a genius, but he was naturally, he was held within his own era. He was captive to his era. He couldn't be speaking about quantum physics. It didn't exist in his time. He couldn't speak about time travel. It didn't exist. I mean, he could just mention it as a hypothetical, but, it's different. So I hope that sheds some light. Right. Bobby Valentino, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I feel absolutely. Dr. Faisal, I actually, I'm going to probably speak to him tomorrow. I'll see if I can get him on soon again. Right, okay, let's share some of the link, and then what we'll do is we'll try to have get some of you on here. Let's try and keep it brief, and then we'll wrap this up, people. What's this? Thoughts on how no one exists here by choice. We were just put here and expected to do right. Allah. Yeah. You see, that's one way of looking at it that we were just put here. The other way of looking at that is that we were blessed and granted and bestowed a 1 in a million opportunity to experience this realm that is truly so majestic. Allah. You see, in just noticing how the vastness, the drowning, incomprehensible vastness of the cosmos, to the ineffable, unimaginable meaning derived by human interaction with one another. Just think of the blessings of that we have by simple existence alone. And I get that for certain people it's very challenging, but I'm focusing right now on the positive. It is something, you gotta say, huh? I mean, you could look at it as depressive, that there was a poem by Nasir Kazmi. It's actually quite tragic, He says, what's the first line? He says, but the second, the tragic part, he says, Sahar ki aas hai, zindagi ki aas nahi. Allah. Really is quite, in fact, I may have it here somewhere. Wait there. You know what, yaar, now that you've got me, wallahi, poetry really brings a smile to my face at times. I actually, it's not just a smile. When I hear like a good poem, uncontrollably, sometimes I'll break into laughter, just laughter of joy. I find it so joyful to, let me see, where do I, this is another one. I'll come back to this. This is from the legend Mir Taki Mir. Sab pe jis bar ne girani ki. Bar here means not a bar, but bar I know can mean like is bar, us bar, like a time, but it also in Farsi it means the weight of, the burden of. So, like they'll say, bare amanat, the weight of trust, being entrusted with this kind of, so sab pe jis bar ne girani ki, that, and this is actually Islamic. He's trying to say that, the verse of the Quran, Allah says that we aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal ard, that we gave the amana, the trust, to entrust it to the heavens and the earths and the mountains, and all of them would never have been able to handle. وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. Allah. And he says, Sab pe jis bar ne girani ki, that it was too heavy, too kind of heavy the load was for. Giran is from that word. Usko ye na tawa utha laya. Natama is like somebody that's so weak, and the way he says it, usko ye natama utha laya. that which was too heavy for everything, this one seems to, this weak one seems to have just brought it along. You have to love it, honestly. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, here it is. This is for the depressives out there. He says, "Guzar rahe hain ajab marhale se." All right, wait. "Guzar rahe hain ajab marhale se deeda o dil." That he says that they are passing through strange phases, that my eyes, the vision and the heart, meaning him, his whole experience, it's going through a strange phase. गुजर रहे हैं अजब मरहले से दीदा ओ दिल, सहर की आस तो है जिंदगी की आस नहीं. Hi. Honestly, just want to give him a hug here. It's gonna be all right, man. Don't worry. He says that we have hope for dawn. We just don't have hope for life. Wow. He says, और कभी कभी जो तेरे कुर्ब में गुजारे थे, अब उन दिनों का तसव्वुर भी मेरे पास नहीं. And those days that we spent in your presence, now I don't even have the contemplation of those days. Like I can't even bring them to mind now. And he says, मुझे ये डर है तेरी आरज़ू न मिट जाए. Hi. That is painful, huh? Check this out though. He says, मुझे ये डर है तेरी आरज़ू न मिट जाए, बहुत दिनों से तबीयत मेरी उदास. Wow. Like, look at it. Look how he's kind of shaping it. He says, now that I have this fear that your desire may dissipate, that it may just go. मुझे ये डर है तेरी आरज़ू ना मिट जाए, बहुत दिनों से तबीयत मेरी उदास नहीं. That it's been so many days now that I've not felt on a downer. Wow, these poets can really take your mind to places and do wonders with it. Yeah, I do. Honestly, poetry, I love it. It brings joy to my heart so often. I'll listen to poetry sometimes. I'll be driving or and I just burst into uncontrollable laughter, just out of sheer joy of what they say sometimes. Yeah, here's a line I've got here. So sometimes I note some down that I find so incredible. I just like put some down sometimes. So here's one. This is by Momin Khan Momin, who was a contemporary of Ghalib. And he says, now check this out. He says, Shab, now this, the mentality. Shab jo masjid mein ja phase momin. He's saying that, last evening, momin is, and look at the word he's using, momin, which means the faithful, from mu'min, from the Arabic. He says, Shab jo masjid mein ja phase momin. He says, last night, when mu'min got stuck in the masjid, he got trapped, meaning like he didn't really want to be in the mosque. He got stuck and he had to be in the mosque. Ya salam. And he says, Raat kati khuda karke. That is such a play on words. He says, I spent that night crying out to Allah. Like, look at the imagery. That you see, often people say that, I spent that night khuda karke, that crying out to Allah when you're stuck in some danger somewhere, or it's like, oh my God, I got stuck in a storm and I spent the night crying out to Allah. And he says, I got stuck in a mosque. Raat kati khuda karke. You have to love these people, honestly. They were legends though. Seriously. So let me share. Zineb Sahmi Lamrani, shukran. Right, dearly appreciated. I'm going to share the invite, and I realized that I had my earphones on all day today. Really, I only needed to put them on when I go. Va. It is deep. Poetry is epic. Honestly, those of you that can get into poetry, get into it if you can. There you go. I've shared the link. If you want to jump on, what we'll do is we'll try and keep it brief. Do switch on your webcam, and I can get you on. All right. Please make a video on the sciences of Arabic language. You know, I really did love Arabic grammar, and I loved the politics, the grammarians, the rivalries, the kind of the bickerings, the way they would diss each other, the way, and I was so into this for so many years in my learning. But the problem was I never had anybody to relate it to, because nobody was really into Arabic grammar. And I'm just sharing the link again. This is to, if you want to join the live stream, and there it is. I've put it in the comments. Right. Okay. Now, yeah, I couldn't really discuss it with people. Somebody's asking, Firas Dhahabi, Mind Trap. Right, yeah. I mean, I will speak to, I know it was supposed to happen, then Firas got busy, and I know he's been doing quite a bit. I spoke to him, I think it's been probably 2-3 weeks now. Probably a bit, maybe, I can't remember now, 3 or 4 weeks. He was in actually Las Vegas prepping a particular fight. He's like a world star coach for MMA, and I know he's very busy. But yeah, let's see. All right, are you Sunni? I am Sunni, shukran. All right, so True Guidance, salam, Mufti Sa, wa alaikum assalam. Right, I'll share the link once again, and then I'll start taking some of the guests. We've got here Lucy Wine Jones.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum assalam, Lucy. Absolutely, I can. How are you doing?
Okay. Are you suggesting that my surname implies that I get drunk a lot?
Me? No, not at all. God forbid. Did I mispronounce it?
Wyn Jones. It's a
Wyn
Welsh
Jones.
surname.
It's about winning. That's what it is. All you illiterati out there that can't read, including me. All right, gotta say, I love the earphones.
Similar to yours. Yeah, I've got a collection of them from all the times that are due to planned obsolescence.
It seems like a gaming set that you've got there. I've been proper in. I went through a certain phase where I'd become like a connoisseur for headphones, and I was trying out so many different ones, and I think I must have gone through so many brands. I mean, but to be honest, what had happened was I just went to I think I was at where was I actually? But anyway, I just got a pair from the store, and they said to me, "Look, listen, why don't you?" I said, "I'm undecided." So they said, "I tell you what, why don't you just take them and just bring them back if you don't like them?" So I said, "What? Really? You cool with that?" They said, "Absolutely." So I was just doing that. Like after every 3 weeks, I was taking the next brand, and I was comparing them all. I was reading the reviews, and I just got carried away. So how are you doing, Lucy?
I'm doing fine, thanks. I've got some. I long ago I wrote a silly poem, and this was in the Trump days.
Wow. Okay. Would you like to share that with us?
Okay. I don't remember all the lines, but I can try to freestyle and make a fool of myself, and do throw in questions to make it extra awkward for me, like some sort of silly rap battle. Adds to the entertainment. Sorry to Trump for Trump.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I fell heartbroken for Trump. As fire was used to worship Trump, I fell heartbroken for Trump. Looks like they
Wow.
need more than a travel ban from Biden. At the time when the poem was written, I said the word Trump because Trump was then president, but I think you get the gist.
We do.
Yeah. As fire was used to worship Trump, they could potentially burn Trump. Looks like they need more than a travel ban from Trump. Sorry to Trump the Trump. Will he respond like Moses to the worship of Donald Trump? Moses at the golden calf? Yeah, it's written for a general audience, so we'd probably say the term Musa alayhi salam rather than
No, it's fine.
Moses.
You can say Moses. We're absolutely fine.
Okay, if you want to get yourself into extra trouble, you can always say Moshe Rabbeinu Eloha Hashalom, meaning Moses, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam.
Wow. Ya salam. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's Hebrew, by the way, for Moses, but you can say that if you
Yeah,
feel
no,
like getting yourself into trouble and scaring and tricking people that you're in the Mossad.
Wow. So okay, was that so that was the poem. Wow. Okay, that's very
There's more to it, but you can
Oh, there's more.
You can analyze it.
Yeah, very, very fascinating. Is this something you have an interest in writing poetry, and you do that often, Lucy?
Oh, probably not as often as I could do. I usually spend most of my time behind the computer coding when I feel like it, and I also
You're a computer coder.
Yeah, I can code websites, so yeah, need any.
Wow.
I know like
Yeah.
there's different types of website development. So I know like there's Lamb Stack, there's Mern Stack, there's Mean Stack. There's all sorts of, these stand for different programming languages and stuff.
See, this is just going whoo, whoo, all over our head. This is like,
yeah, but it's just
right,
like when coding a website, usually when people get to a higher level of website coding and stuff, they tend to be very specialized in one particular area of website development and not just one or the other. Or so, for example, a WordPress developer would be more suitable for a small scale website, whereas a Laravel or own coder would be more suitable for other websites. So it does. I know the basic. I know like I also have tutored kids in website development. That's a bit about myself.
Wow.
And back to the
well, you know what, Lucy, you've got the job. There you go. oh, this wasn't a job interview.
Oh no! Has Mufti turned into Trump? Is he going to fire me as soon as he finds out I can't hack his website and know all the different security holes in it?
There's nothing on these websites. So, Lucy, what are on your preoccupying your thoughts? Do you have a kind of like something to share in addition to the poem which you've shared, or maybe a question, or is there some? Yeah.
Okay, I've got a bit of extra poetry that I was thinking of. It's not the Trump poem, as we're probably a bit all bored of Trump jokes by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's God is one and one alone, one of him and one alone, one of him and not in a three, not even in a trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with that style of poetry, and yeah, I know that my good friend, I don't have permission to mention her name here, but she wrote according to that style of poetry, which is reciting one line and then the other line ends similarly.
Sure.
And then
that's very impressive.
Repeats itself. And questions. Whoa. So yeah. To what extent? This is a difficult one, but to what extent does a person's tajweed need to be correct in order to recite the Quran and stuff? Because I know, like, as a revert to Islam, I know, like, when I hear people recite the Quran without correct tajweed, I get all icky because I'm used to hearing the proper reciters and stuff.
I mean, these things are just what you'd say in Arabic, like qadr al-mustata', that somebody to their capacity. As I guess it may be work in progress. You just kind of improve. You're learning a language, or you're learning to say words from a language, and you may improve the accent, so to speak. or your pronunciation over time. It's naturally desirable, but it doesn't mean you have to. If you struggle to do it, it's I mean it may just sound interesting to certain people, but it wouldn't. I don't think it's something to worry yourself about. I would see the other way. To me it would be more of, I would see it as opposed to some people seeing it as like a right wrong issue. I would see it more as a passion issue that I would want to. It's like when I'm trying to learn Spanish. I want the pronunciation. I want the whole thing. Even many years ago, I used to do some Chinese, and I was really interested in wanting the actual pronunciation as opposed to just doing it, in my way. So and it's not difficult. Arabic is actually quite, I think, it's probably in the middle. It's I mean, it may not be incredibly easy, and I don't feel it's incredibly difficult, because it's something, the letters and the pronunciation are kind of locked in. So once, it's a bit like Spanish, they're kind of locked in. Once you can read them, you can say them, and that's it. They don't, like in English, the pronunciation of words changes. The letters may be pronounced like this here and that over there, a hard C here, a soft C there. And they don't always follow rules. You just have to follow what the people speak it like. But in Arabic, if you just know the rules, you're good to go. And you could pick that up just from YouTube, to be honest, and you could pick it up within a few days. It's very
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. And are you also learning the language as well? Like you're learning some of
I know, like I'm reluctant.
How are you doing? What's this? What's that? How's the weather? Are you learning a bit of speak as well?
I know, like, I'm reluctant to speak the dialectical Arabic, because I know, like, in Egyptian Arabic, for example, which is the main dialectical Arabic a person can get access to in the English-speaking world, they pronounce the letters as G as G instead of J. So Mugahed, it would usually be Mujahed.
I think that's a good choice. That definitely avoid the kind of what the Ammiya, they kind of colloquial speak. I think just focus on either what they call MSA, Modern Standard Arabic, or Fusha, High Arabic, the classical kind of Arabic. And even if you're with an accent, you're just saying, you just go at it. كيف حالك؟ نعم أنا بخير.
Alhamdulillah.
Just do it. Speak it with an English accent and just say, ماذا تفعل؟ هل أنت تذهب إلى المحل؟ نعم. And then soon it'll just kind of come through and be like, نعم.
Oh yeah, I know, like I have picked up a lot of Arabic terminology, and I can, alhamdulillah, throw it around. I can also I know, like, a lot of Muslims who watch the internet and stuff. I know, like, there's one Muslim YouTube channel, Muslim by Choice, that has uploaded videos by Rabbi Tovia Singer. He used to be based in Indonesia.
Were you Jewish before when you converted?
No.
Oh right, okay, no.
But I know, like, I've talked to you about this before. I do claim that the Irish High Kings of old are descendants of the ancient Egyptian Mu'min min Ali Firaun.
Right, we've spoken about this before. Yes, I remember now. I recall.
Yeah, and I know, like, I know, like, it's just like through watching. My point about Rabbi Tovia Singer is, like, through watching him, I have picked up how to use certain Jewish expressions. So if I'm in trouble in London or something, I can probably convince people that I'm actually a Mossad agent by throwing out Hebrew words if I feel, I'm in trouble.
I don't think that's the best course of action, but still.
It's good for a laugh.
Absolutely. Well, Lucy, shukran. It's been amazing to hear your thoughts, the poetry, your computer script, and also your passion for learning languages. I hope other people are inspired. Shukran for joining us. Do stay in touch, okay? Stay blessed. Assalamu alaikum. People, that was Lucy Wynne-Jones, not Wine. All right, so Somebody was asking for the link. There it is. The Egyptian G is killing me. Yeah. All right. So we've got here Safe Diab. Safe Diab. Oh, assalamu alaikum, Safe.
Doing.
I can just. Oh, right. That's your voice has just come through now. No?
Yeah, there was some lag. I'm experiencing some lag.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely it's lagging and also very low. So, yeah, sure.
All right, better or worse?
Whoa.
Better or
Just
worse?
turn into.
Can you hear me?
I can, but it's not still so.
Better or worse?
Right. It's.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, whoa.
Well, I guess so. That's my luck.
Sure. Okay. All right. So Safe Diab. Sure. Okay. I'll take you off and then maybe try and reboot it. People. All right. So Safe Diab. Sound issues. Well, such is life. Guys, what multiple packages you can use to get to know? Okay, I don't know what. Oh, right. People are talking about programming. All right. Well, that's something I'm totally illiterate in. Actually, you know what? As a teenager, look how long ago that was. I did do that kind of what was it called then? Was it like called something like Turbo C++ or something? And am I making it up, or I've got this memory of doing that, but I don't know. So, right. Yep. Old age. That's what it is, man. Old age. All right. So, people, I hope things are good. Let me just. How do you deal with. Look at this, Rayhan. How do you deal with nihilism and Islam? That's a. That's a very interesting kind of question. Right. I've just shared that link, by the way, to connect. I don't think nihilism for most people is really a problem. I think it was the problem philosophers thought we would have if we rejected God. But as it so turned out, people didn't really. I think we're just programmed to get on with it. We don't. You see, I do think I agree with those people who say that we have an instinct for meaning, that it's in, I suppose, in the words of Kant, if you like, it would be a categorical, that it would be basically we are hardwired to seek meaning, but not necessarily at an existential level, at a great kind of, I think, as far as reality is concerned, navigating through life, that's true. We are, we do try to seek meaning. We do try to, things must make sense. However, pondering over the meaning of life, pondering over the meaning of our very existence, I don't think these things are innate, like, as in, I don't think we're hardwired to do that. I think we end up doing that, but we can avoid it. And this is how most of humanity survives and thrives. They just don't think about these things. But there was a fear, and this is why Schopenhauer, Arthur Schopenhauer, and followed by Nietzsche, especially Schopenhauer, he felt that the whole world's going to go to the dogs now that we've got rid of religion. Everybody's and that bichara looked like a proper dukkhi atma. If you want to look at someone, you think, damn, this guy looks depressed. Honestly, Arthur Schopenhauer is a fine example. Schopenhauer looks so depressed, man. You just look at him and you get depressed. So he was all about nihilism, and that the whole thing is going to the dogs, and we're not going to be able to find meaning in this world. And but then Nietzsche kind of comes along, and he thinks, uh-oh, that's going to happen. Look, Guru, our Guru Schopenhauer said so, and he felt so that would be the case. And he comes out with his kind of antidote, amor fati, which is not to be in love with someone called Fati, but amor fati, the kind of the love or the will to fate, just embracing fate. But really, I don't think any of that was necessary, because human beings aren't as, they are not trenchantly philosophical. They're just on a conveyor belt of existence. They just move through. This reminds me I watched this documentary. I'm trying to recall what it's called, but it's about the some of the last hunter-gatherers that exist today, and they are a window into the hunter-gatherer ancestors of all of us. And it's interesting. So I think it may be in the kind of by the Kalahari Bushmen or somewhere, but this person goes, it's on YouTube, and he's got a translator, and he's trying to interview them. And it's very fascinating because he follows them around for a couple of days, and they just hunt deer and they hunt stuff, and that's all they hunter-gatherers still. And they just live off the meat, and they don't grow anything, they don't do any, they're literally hunter-gatherers. So I thought this would be really interesting. So I was watching it. I thought, I wonder how they think. I wonder what. And he's really excited about these questions. He goes, I want to know what they believe. I wonder what they think about an afterlife. What do they think about ethics? What do they think about this? But they don't really answer much of the questions. And the chief, or the guy that they are asking, most of his mind and his thoughts are just trapped in meat. Everything is just meat. It's just like, oh, meat, yes. He asked him, what is happiness? Meat, yes. And what would you like? We get more meat. We get meat. And this is their whole world. And you can see that they have this young lad with them as well, this young hunter-gatherer, and he's kind of coming in with some of the answers, but really they just don't seem to focus on. He asks them, what do you think about the afterlife? What do you think happens after death? What do you think? They just say, well, we don't know, but some of our spirits are still here, but yeah, meat, we need to go. It's like they're so locked in, because that is everything. It is their sheer existence. Yeah. It's a bit like that. I don't know if you've seen that kind of that comedy sketch about what people think bodybuilders sound like, and it's got a group of guys on the beach. They all kind of like super hench and tonk, and so one of them comes and he says, man, I love protein. And the other one says, protein, I love protein, man. And then there's another one standing there. He says, did you say protein? I love protein, man. I say, yeah, I bet you do. Here's a milkshake. And another one comes and he says, oh, do you guys say protein? I love protein's awesome, man. And that's what their discussion was pretty much like. Right, we've got Saif Diab is back. Let's bring him on, people. All right. Saif.
All right, can you hear me now?
I can, loud and clear. Allahu Akbar.
Thank God. Take two. Let's go.
All right, let's do this, people. Take two. Action. Saif, where are you joining us from?
Oh, I'm from New York City.
Yeah, the Big Apple. Is that you? Is that you causing the commotion in NYC?
Commotion. Which one? Man, there's a lot.
Yeah, man. Those are the places, ain't they? You know, when you think about it.
Yeah, the city that never sleeps. Been to
Allahu
before.
Akbar.
Wasn't very nice, but whatever. But yeah, work season.
Yes. Is it? Okay, what do you do? What's work?
Oh no, so we regulate the natural gas companies, and there has been a lot of natural gas explosion incidents. So yeah,
Wow.
died left and
Okay.
right. So not nice.
Yes, Allahu lakum. So, Saif Diab, talk to us, man. Is that an Egyptian name, by the way,
Yes,
Diab?
it is. I'm Egyptian.
Because I just know by the famous musician. What's his name again?
Amr Diab. I get that a lot.
Amr Diab. That's it. Amr Diab. Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, talk to me. What's going on?
All right,
What would
so
you
I
like
wanna
to
get
share with us?
I want to get your understanding of remember the story of Adam and Eve before they were kicked out of the garden, right?
Mhm.
And they ate from that tree. What's your understanding of that story? Does it have to do with like consciousness or just give me like a general view of your understanding.
What do you mean about just to
So
understand the
remember
question?
Adam and Eve, or I don't know,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Adam. Eve,
Do you remember Adam and Eve? It's like,
well,
oh
yeah,
yeah, I
it's not Eve in
remember.
the Quran, but let's assume she's there. I don't know. But like
Yeah.
like Adam is in the Quran. Adam is in the garden, and the shaitan whispered to him to eat from that tree, right? So like, because the general understanding in like the Jewish, Christian, Muslim society, the average people believe that they were like naked, and when they ate from that tree, they recognize their nudity, and they start covering up their shame, right? But when I read the Quran, I get like a different interpretation. And so God says the word sayyatahum, right? Which is usually sayyatahum. If you look in the Quran, it means evil deeds. And I think you were talking about evilness last week or the week before, and I wanted to jump into say this part, but yeah. So God says what? Ya bani Adam. يا بني آدم ينفن Remember, okay, all children of Adam, let not Satan tempt you as he tempted your parents to remove them from the Jannah, paradise.
Okay,
them from their sayyatahum, right? Usually the translations say from their clothing, or right, showing their private parts. And
so this, what is called sometimes, especially in the biblical sense, the fall from grace, or just the forbidden Adam and the forbidden fruit story. This is something which I think there's a bit of what I'll do is I'll just mute your mic. So yes, so because there's some kind of rustling sound coming through. Right. So this the whole Adam alayhi salam and the story of the garden and the fruit, forbidden fruit, and what does all of this exactly mean in its precise nature? I think it's there for the readers, for us, what we understand from it. So some people have understood different things. The nature of the Quran is that it can give, and this is one of the most amazing features of the Quran, that it gives different meanings. It dawns with new meanings to people that do tilawah, that recite it, that kind of ponder over it. And we spoke about pondering today. So to some people, this has been okay. So to many people, they feel that this is entirely literal in all of its sense, and that's on one end. Now, some people feel it's entirely literal, although I think, sorry, if we were to have a spectrum, let's say this is 100% literal. I don't think anybody says it's 100% literal. I think they may say it's like 95% literal, 98% literal, because there's certain words in there which I don't think anybody takes literally. So things like the tree of eternity. So Shajrat al-Khuld. Now, what does that mean? So they may kind of interpret that part differently to say, well, that's a metaphor for something, or that was just a name given to this tree or something. But the actual literal word would mean that once they eat from it, it's a tree of eternity, like of eternality. You would become eternal. Now, so, okay, but mostly, let's say overwhelmingly literal. You've got that. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who take it as an allegory, an absolute allegory. So they may say, that this is entirely allegorical. And you've got in some of the Sufi tafsir, tafsirs about that it's actually a representation of the nafs, that it's allegorical about the nafs and about temptation, and it's this kind of allegory to understand the nafs. And I would say most people are probably, in between that they are, but more so towards the literal side. I would say most people are more towards the literal. They may think some parts in it are kind of metaphorical, but there was this incident, there was Adam, and this happens, and there was some forbidden fruit, and he takes it, and this is what begins this whole journey. It's not mentioned with categorical, precise, sequential steps in the Quran. It's mentioned with some detail, but not with, and then this happened, and then, like the way in the Bible, for example. So it's not, there's parts missing. Well, what happens here? How did they get in the garden? How did this happen? What was that? How long were they there? What were there other people in the garden? Was the garden on earth? Was the garden somewhere else? These are all speculative questions which scholars have delved into and they've looked at, and so people have disagreed. And I think it's part of the amazing journey that we, primarily the Quran, when it narrates stories, it's for you to kind of ponder over them and to find some meaning in them and to reflect on that. That's the purpose of the stories that Allah says is ibra. It's got and so we take meanings from them. So to me, if a person reads it and he finds certain meaning that he thinks, wow, okay, this really, it adds something to my life beyond just, it could. So as an example, I've heard some people say that it's about the whole thing about, in fact, Allama or Javed Ghamidi Saab, he has an interpretation that it's about sexual intercourse and the beginning of children, and so that the forbidden fruit was actual referring to a sexual intimacy. You've got other people who say the forbidden, and I think this is also in the Jewish tradition and the Judeo-Christian tradition, that the forbidden fruit was knowledge. And this is why they say the tree was the tree of knowledge in some of the rabbinic literature. And some Muslims have said that as well. And I believe, I'll have to double check that, Ibn Abbas's transmission was also that it was the tree of knowledge. So, and then some people are in between. Some people feel that it may have been a psychedelic fruit that was to trigger the birth of consciousness, as what certain psychologists and scientists today say, that when man, they say that some Homo sapien was the father of the cognitive revolution. We don't know who he was, but he was somebody. And one of the possible ways that may have begun is he consumed a certain fruit or a certain, he ate something, not edible as in the weed thing, but something psychedelic that triggered that. So maybe something rich in DMT, something rich in something incredibly powerful. That's some theory that people have. I think these stories are personal. It's not about trying to control narratives. I don't think it's trying to say people should be it's not really our job to be saying, well, when you read the Quran, what kind of meaning does it add to your life? And oh my God, it shouldn't add this meaning, it should only add this meaning. It's, this is the wonderful nature of the Quran, that it does that. But the actual precise details, nobody knows them. We don't know. The Quran doesn't give like a list of details. It just shares glimpses into an incident. The incident of the some incidents of this kind of fall from grace are in other traditions as well. They're not just in the kind of Judeo-Christian. They're outside of the tradition. You do find other cultures as well. Some people say there's certain reflections also in the Sumerian, Babylonian cultures as well. Of the serpent, for example, and Gilgamesh, the whole incident of Gilgamesh and the eternity that he was trying to, his epic of trying to attain immortality. And eventually he does. He attains it, but the snake tricks him. And so there are other cultures that have certain reflections as well that we can find sometimes. That's interesting. They've got a similar thing here. That part's different. But yeah, I hope that adds. I don't know if that really answers the question. The truth is, nobody has absolute knowledge of Adam alayhi salam. Nobody knows exactly what exactly happened step by step with him, or there's just a spectrum of opinions. Some people, most Muslims, I would feel, myself included, that he was a real person, and that these were real events. How they portrayed, there may be use of language that is metaphorical and literary, but there was some event. To some people, the absolute thing was a metaphor. And I know a lot of Christians today, and I don't know about Jewish, but definitely Christians feel the entire thing was a metaphor. Certain Sufi tafsir do feel the entire thing was a metaphor as well. I'm pretty sure Ibn Arabi has a particular tafsir on it as well, that but I'll have to, where he speaks of it being Adam of many Adams as well. So yeah, not to kind of digress too much, but okay, I hope that gives some. I've just unmuted you. No, it doesn't. Is it not allowing me to unmute you? Hello? I think that's a sign. Now there you are.
Oh, here you go.
Right, so I hope that helps. Is that okay? I'm not sure if there was.
Good. Yeah.
Sure, but I think, look, there's a bit of with your voice, there's a bit of a delay. But I think, look, with these stories of the Quran, the main thing is that Allah says we tell you these stories so they may add some meaning to your life. That you understand, even with the story of Adam, we understand it was something about responsibility. We understand it was something about a journey, a personal journey, not as in a physical journey, but a journey of man, so to speak, of human. By man, I mean human. A story of consequences, a story of facing, a story of remorse. It was about, and also, and I find one of the most beautiful things about this story is, despite consequences and despite remorse, something beautiful can still come out of it, because which was the beginning of humanity, if you think about it. And so it's there's so much to take away from it. So yeah, I hope that helps, man. Safe. It's been good catching up. Take care, stay blessed, much love. People, that was Safe Diab. I'm not sure if he was related to the Egyptian singer, musician, but does any look at this. First time I catch Mufti live ever. I'm never awake this late. जिंदगी में बहुत कुछ फर्स्ट टाइम होता है पास. Many a things happen, man. First time, man. First time. We've got Isa Hakim. All right. Assalamu alaikum, Isa Hakim.
Walaikum salam, Mufti. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Isa? All right.
Yes, sir.
Where are you joining
Yes,
us
sir.
from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
From Baltimore. All right, Maryland. All right, you're doing it, man. Talk to us, Isa. I like it. I
Yes,
like the
sir.
whole. You've got look at the vibe. You've got a whole vibe going on there. All
Oh
right.
yeah. Oh
That's
yes, Lord. It's 9:30. It's 9:30 where I'm at, so I'm in my late night clothes. Just got off work a couple hours ago.
no. It's good. It's good that you could join us. Shukran. Talk to us. What's on your mind? What's preoccupying your thoughts?
So, question hopefully won't be too much, but what do you think about like looked for your video, and I haven't been on this, but
So
what do you
yeah.
teaching my children religion, right?
Mm,
Like I don't want to tell them what to be, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to
yeah.
tell them, oh, because I accepted Islam, now you're this. No. I want them to, so I didn't,
Yeah.
what do you think about like as far as that
That's
goes?
that's a
Like what a good way to teach them is.
very good question. Do you mind me asking how long has it been since you embraced Islam, and just a bit about that? Do you mind me asking?
2015 when I came home from jail. I didn't accept Islam in jail, but I started going to like I guess they're like little Bible studies in there, and I was getting more finding my faith in Christianity,
Okay.
and that kind of led me to studying Torah, etc. I found Islam. Long story short.
Wow. No, absolutely. No, it's always a pleasure to hear really about people's kind of journey, and it's just like the power of it, this of just recounting and just sharing these stories sometimes is that it gives a boost to everyone who listens to it, and it's amazing. May Allah bless your journey. I mean, and accept your efforts and this whole path. I mean, I think it's a really good question that you've asked about children, and you're saying, look, I don't want to kind of impose my faith onto my children. And your children are young, I take it.
Right.
Yeah. So
11 and
okay,
12.
11 and 12.
Girls. So
What I
people say hijab and all that with girls.
yeah, look, what I would say is that you keep things natural, and what you do is you see this is, and everybody has a shot at giving their opinion on this. It's not like I have some kind of master blueprint that is the answer. It's not. But the
Right.
way I see things is that it should just be natural. And to me, my view would be that preaching seldom works. It's not about preaching, it's about shining with something that people see.
Right.
Like they think, wow, man, this, since Isa's got something, man. Like, I see these values in him sometimes. I see this, like people, you could, for example, maybe they see a humanitarian side, they see this compassion, they see something, and they think, and your children too, even, and I get that they may be now bordering on that kind of, that teenage, bordering on getting closer to that, and sometimes there's that rebellious nature in kids, but they love, by default, they love their dad. And they will see that, dad's got this about him, or he's got that about him, and they want to be a part of that journey. They want, you know what, I want to be this person's so positive all of a sudden, this person's so happy, I want that. And I think that is really the way that, and you know, it's interesting that that's actually how in early Islam, when the companions of the Prophet would go somewhere, this is actually how they would be. That it wasn't contrary to what people think. They weren't kind of going to people saying, become Muslim, say I believe in Allah, say I do this. They weren't doing that. People were just like, you know, they're like, what's this guy, you know, what's this positivity all about? And why is this person so beaming with this radiant kind of, and they would say, oh, us, you know, we've freed ourselves from this superstition. We just believe in God. And people will be like, wow, okay, what do I have to do that? Say, well, you just be a part of it. You know, it's about humanity. It's about, and I think, you know, a step at a time. And people, they will come, and with your own wisdom, how you see, obviously nobody knows your situation like how you know it. And there may be things like, so for example, maybe with food, you've got, you know, halal food, and they learn and they say, oh wow, this is, you know, this is halal food, this is how it is. And if people are like, they may see you pray and they may think, wow, you know what, wow, Dad, what is that? You know, Dad's meditating. Or they may think, well, you know, whoa, he's kind of like, and they may want to try it out, and they may think, well, actually, I like this. You know, it gives me a few minutes a day. I'm just in my, you know, I zone into myself. I mean, I try to be at peace, and this is it. And what I would say is, you emphasize to them this thing, Islam's emphasis of things like this charitable nature. You know, this is what Islam, you teaching them that Islam's emphasis on smiling, Islam's emphasis on sometimes giving, even if it's a little, you giving, caring for the neighbors, doing this. This is what Islam emphasizes. And people, this speaks volumes. And people, this is how I see things, and the rest kind of follows. If people, they want to do something, if they want to be a part, alhamdulillah, that's wonderful. And if I don't think imposing or kind of trying to be strict on people is the way. And I think in my experience, it always, even if in the short term it makes people do things, in the long term it takes them 100 miles farther away from it. Like, they just, the first opportunity they get, they resent it. So that's how I would, and you know, it's an amazing, and speaking about that, the charitable side, or that that when the prophets Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to Medina, and you know, some of the people had come with him, and the others were kind of getting to know each other, and he was asked, what should we do? Like, what should we go around? Like, what should we do? And people were, you see, they were seen as kind of strangers because they're on this new thing. Like, what is this thing? And so the Prophet said, he said, أطعموا الطعام. He said, أطعموا الطعام وأفشوا السلام على من علمت على من عرفت ومن لم تعرف. He said, feed people. He said, you know what? If you've got some food, share it with someone. And he said, and you know what? Say a peaceful word, salam, to someone. And it doesn't mean it has to be in Arabic. Like, I don't know exactly. Oh, you said you live in Baltimore. Now, I don't know about the neighborhood, but it doesn't mean, like, let's say, I don't know. This is just a shot in the dark. Let's say you live in a neighborhood which isn't really Muslim. And in which case, you go into your local shop, and the person opens the door, is a regular American non-Muslim, saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It's like, whoa, what the hell? They'll be like, what the hell is this guy doing? So it doesn't, you see, that's not spreading salam. Salam, because you have to remember, in the Prophet's time, they all spoke Arabic. You know, and the person said, hey, peace be unto you. People were like, whoa, oh, thank you, man. You know, that's so kind. I don't, you know, it's like today you say to someone, like, you know, if you say to someone, like, you know, may God keep you smiling. It's like, wow, like, okay, thank you. It touches people's heart. Like, they don't expect you to say something so kind to them. And in the time of the
Right.
Prophet, they all understood Arabic, so it made sense. So saying these things, that spreading peace or peaceful words here, afshu salam, saying nice words to people, words of peace, that this is what the Prophet taught. I think it's a journey, and I think it's going to be, inshallah, a wonderful one along the way. It may have some, you know, interesting jumps and a little bit of just as any path does, but I think it, for the most part, it's about just enjoying that path along the way. May Allah bless you. May He bless your family, Isa. Make things easy for you. Ameen. Cool. All right.
Appreciate
Shukran.
you as well. Thank you.
Well, shukran. Take care. Stay blessed, and we'll speak soon, man. People, that was Isa Hakim from Baltimore. All right. There is something I appreciate those. All right, Willie the Kid. I will certainly tread cautiously. Guys, where we at? Let's wrap this up. It's come up to 2.5 hours. It's been epic as always. Just some quick words I'll bring up here as well. Just check my diary. This coming Monday, unless it's Monday or Tuesday, it's the end of the month. Monday, I should be having the book club meetup, which would be discussing the book. Oh, you can't really see it. It's Money by Yuval Harari. It's been a fascinating read, a short read. If you want to jump on that and start reading it, you can reach out to Lee Kadan, which is spelled, I'll just type it in here so you can see it. I don't think Lee is online right now. So if you message her on Instagram or Facebook, she's managing the enrollment to the book lounge, the book club. So we can, if you're interested, it is for people who are genuinely interested about reading. We will discuss the book. It's had some fascinating themes so far. It's discussed things like imaginative realities, history, the formation, capitalism, the pros and cons, and politics, the formation of the shift of powers, global powers. It's just been incredible. The concept of freedoms. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to discussing it. That will be on Monday night, inshallah, on the book lounge server on Discord. So you can reach out to, as I've mentioned, I'll put that up again, Lee Kadan, and she will help you out with that. Guys, other than that, this Friday I should be doing a mind trap with Dr. Sayyid Hamad. Looking forward to that. Should be discussing some of the key legends, the mystic legends of this ummah, like Muhyiddin ibn Arabi. And let's take a look at that, explore some of his thoughts and how they can add value in this day and age, especially in an age, in the age of rising consciousness, I would say, and we're definitely in an age where there is much more of a concern and an approach towards consciousness, and I feel that is the gateway to God. In this day and age in an age of post-religion, the path to God, I feel, is through the gate of consciousness. Those who pursue consciousness, inshallah, that is, non-Muslims especially, and Muslims too, that is what leads them to God. People, take care of yourselves. Somebody said The Wire. Yep, that's exactly what I thought, when I thought Baltimore, I thought The Wire. Oh God, honestly, you see, to me, America is all movies, and that's my frames of reference: movies and TV series and just TV. Really, I think, wow. I remember when I visited. It's been several years now, and I saw the yellow bus. I was like, oh my God, that's like in the movies, man. It's like surreal. It's like like, does this stuff happen in real life, or isn't that just in the movies? So people, take very good care of yourselves. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, then what are you waiting for, man? Click the notification bell. I see many of you still haven't. That way, whenever I go live, it'll notify you. And my Instagram, I share different content on there, so you can follow me there. And if you want to show more love, feeling the love, then you head over to my Patreon. That's where all the extra love can bubble up, and you can share your love and support on Patreon. I do have tiers on there. If you want to, some people do ask me, they want to connect with the one-to-ones. I do have my one-to-one perspective management stuff on there, so you can connect. Take care of yourselves. Have an awesome few days, and I'll see you on Friday. Much love. Salamullahi alaikum wa khudaha.